Right before she died of a drug overdose, I had no idea she was taking drugs.
It gets you addicted. I mean, I started out like any drug, just doing it once a week. Then it became twice a week. Then it became almost every night, smoking a little bit. Then it became waking up with it, doing it all day long.
I didn't get to see my daughter, but her dad did.
He was a heroin addict. He, had struggled with heroin for a long time, but he had been clean for a year.
I'm just thinking to myself, like, wow, why? Why did you drive?
I looked to the left and I saw like this white truck, and I couldn't see nothing. I said, I go, oh Jesus, like that. And
Right before she died of a drug overdose, I had no idea she was taking drugs.
It gets you addicted. I mean, I started out like any drug, just doing it once a week. Then it became twice a week. Then it became almost every night, smoking a little bit. Then it became waking up with it, doing it all day long.
I didn't get to see my daughter, but her dad did.
He was a heroin addict. He, had struggled with heroin for a long time, but he had been clean for a year.
I'm just thinking to myself, like, wow, why? Why did you drive?
I looked to the left and I saw like this white truck, and I couldn't see nothing. I said, I go, oh Jesus, like that. And it hit us.
You will be convicted of a felony if you're caught selling this stuff.
And what you don't really realize that you're putting your life in danger and everybody else around you in danger, and it's just not worth it.
It was 8 minutes from the time the officer left, and that my daughter was killed.
Broke my back at T12, severed my spinal cord, had a punctured lung, a torn diaphragm, and several broken ribs, and that's what left me paralyzed at the waist, and we got a speeding ticket. That's it.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the live event after the premiere. I see right out of the chute someone from San Antonio, Andy Ariola. Seen you here before. Thank you for joining us. And hello, Bruno from Brazil. Thank you for being here as well. So, another story. I see we have about a little over 20 people in the room. We have 2 likes, but 20 people in the room. Not that I'm hinting or anything. Hello, Cindy. Cindy Bennett. Welcome to the live event. Thank you for joining us. Glad you're here. So were you guys in on the premiere? Do you have any comments, questions, feedback? Always love to hear feedback because we don't get to hear a lot of feedback. Sometimes we hear feedback from the storyteller, and that's about it. So I thought it would be always cool to hear from the audience fresh after watching a story. So, what do y'all think? It seems like there's been an increase in the reporting of fentanyl in the news. Andy's asking when did the fentanyl hit the U.S. and the crisis really began, according to CDC. I believe. Let me look, because I want to be sure and get this right. So the crisis began in 2013, according to the CDC, and then became the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services declared the opioid crisis a public health emergency in 2017. The crisis spans 4 administrations, and it includes both parties. I only say that because, well, oftentimes when people ask when did it begin, it turns into a political discussion. So I felt like I would just throw that in there. Sorry, just hit the mic with a coffee mug, boy. But what a cool coffee mug, right? So to answer your question, 2013 is what the CDC says. That's when the CDC started talking about it. So maybe, sorry, trying to do too much at once here, but I am trying to make a subtle adjustment, because frankly, it looks like I'm a little bit overexposed. Right? Isn't that okay? Doesn't that seem better? More of a correctly exposed image? I hope so. So in a few minutes, we're going to have a premiere we're going to have a trailer that we can share with you about the new series that is coming to our channel. Should be the first episode, should be public in the next few days. There should be a premiere just like this for the new series, Cannabis-Induced Psychosis, in the next few days. So, let me see. Okay. So that was a cool question to ask. What other questions does anybody have out there? Anyone have questions they would like to share? Obviously, I kind of rely on your questions to have something to say while I'm here. I don't want to just be here and have nothing to say. So here's an interesting graphic that I can share. For Andy, here's the graphic. I think you saw this last time, and I think at least I shared it last time, and I'm just sharing it again because you asked around when it started, and it really started around 2013, and the graph kind of lays that out. So there it is. How did the trips go? The trips and meetups went really well. Finally got to meet Brenda Miller when we were in Oklahoma City for lunch. Brenda was there, Carla and Brad were there, and a nice group of other people were there, and very grateful for all of the very grateful for all the people who were a part of it. It's always a little bit overwhelming when we do some event like that, and this group of people comes together just because of what we help make happen. So that's a good feeling. It's very nice. So I started going down another road in which so here's a peculiar thing that is just I don't know. I met in Wichita. I met someone who's missing a finger as part of the thing. This whole finger on her right hand was gone. When I shook hands with her, I realized right away, hey, that's only 3 fingers. And didn't think anything else of it. Eventually, it came up in conversation, and she explained that it was amputated because of cancer. So then in Colorado, one of our storytellers in Colorado also missing a finger. And then after the storytelling event, I had a lunch meeting with someone in Denver, and he too missing a finger. So it was just it just seemed odd to me that boom, 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 in 3 different circumstances, right in a row, same hand, same finger, just a little bit strange. So aside from that, the meetings went really well. I ought to be able to show you guys. I believe I can share with you guys some pictures from the event, especially the event in Denver. We have some behind the scenes photos and interviews, after interviews, which I realize that sounds a little peculiar, but we had some special help. A guy named Vincent who shot a bunch of behind the scenes stuff, and we'll be telling you more about him as more of the content from Colorado becomes public. Orangutan, orange people. All right, Orange. Thank you for being here. Always nice to see you here. So I believe there we go. I'm working on it. You just got to bear with me. All right. Well, okay. there is some content in here that I don't think is. I mean, it's nothing juicy. Hello, Viola. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad you're here. Well, this is. What is this? String of nonsense. Gee. I really thought I would be able to share with you guys some of the behind the scenes content from Colorado. There was some interesting stuff that went on, and well, perhaps not. But I can share with you. We will have a kind of a sneak premiere, just a short clip of part of what will be one of our first stories about cannabis-induced psychosis. We'll have that to share with you guys in just a few minutes. I'm still trying to figure out some of the. No, I don't. Okay. So I was trying to open up one of the clips in a way that I can play it here, and it says it's a format that's not supported. So we will. I don't. Let's just bear with me. That's audio files. This is all there is. So I am looking. Oh, look here. Here we go. Okay. Perfect. Okay, folks, here we are. Now, all I got to do is just set this up. And we'll see how this works out. All right. Take your time, Glenn. Oh, you're killing me. Yeah. No, I should have had this all sorted out before we started. But here's a shot from the event. I can do that. This is from the shoot in Denver. This is on the set. We have in this case there's a purple light on the background, and there I am talking with one of our storytellers. And now we'll see if I click ahead. Look, there's another picture. Me and the storyteller on the set. This is obviously this is after the interview. If you look at what's in her hand, you can see there's a roll of lifesavers in her hand, and she is about to cry. Probably. That's just kind of what happens. So there's that, and I'm explaining to her here about the lifesavers and all of that good stuff. So, well, it's okay. So there was an interview, a behind the scenes interview with her afterwards. Here we are shooting another story. You can see in this picture, you can see the magic box and the monitor that I use to monitor the camera recording stuff. while I'm conducting the interview. There's another view, the big, this big square thing right over here. This big box right here is the magic box, which is really just a kind of a prism thing, kind of like a periscope that works much like the way a teleprompter does. Yeah, that's exciting. So, and here we are in the middle of an interview with a storyteller that had a lot to say. This interview was one of the longest. You can get a little bit of a sense of the way that magic box works from some of those pictures. So most of these I haven't actually seen before, so we're getting to go through all of this together. The whole interview process is very much, I don't get that picture, but the whole interview process is very much a very cool thing to go through. That people really appreciate the chance to talk about their loved one. So, golly, I don't know how many more of these there are, but there is my wife, and there's us in one of our new shirts. Another storyteller, blue background for this one. We were shooting in a high school, a special high school for recovery. And it's a high school that has a student body of 80 to 120. 120 students. It's a very nice place. It was vacant because it's summer, and so they were gracious enough to let us use the space. So in a few minutes, we're going to be showing you some clips from, well, not really some clips, but a short, like a premiere, like a sneak preview, like a trailer, like a trailer. That's it. That's what I was trying to think of. A trailer. Here's a good view of our set. We have everything set up. We have a workstation where we transfer files to hard drives, and you see the camera there, and there's a light above the camera that's shining back on me so that the interview subject can see me through the magic box. And then probably after the interview, this is just a little bit of talking time. She did an interview. Here's another storyteller. So we'll go back one. Like there's the lifesavers. Lifesavers are quite a cool thing. There's another storyteller. And this is an area where people hung out and waited to share their stories, or hung out after sharing their stories. It's a very cool space. A lot of these, two of these are storytellers One of those is a storyteller, or a, no, one of those is the school administrator, the guy on the left in the checkered looking shirt, and the other guy is there in support of a storyteller. More storytellers. That is, there's my wife. You can see the edge of her shirt says stories. You can see the stories that matter line, and that is Aubrey Adams on the left in the Texas Pictures shirt that you can barely tell is a Texas Pictures shirt. I don't know. I'm annoyed here, I think. Another storyteller right there. Very nice shot. Nicely exposed and cool, I thought. Anyway, so that's probably enough of that. You guys get the idea of a little bit of what happens behind the scenes. So we took a trip down a different kind of road there. And so that's cool, right? Get to see a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. We have some big events coming up this week. And one is a strong maybe, so I can't really not going to go into more detail until it's definite. But could be cool stuff coming soon. So I believe some of you have some of you have been in image slideshow. What is that? I believe that some of you have been in the group before where we have talked about the we talked about how we're starting a series on cannabis-induced psychosis, and it's going to be interesting because it is such a volatile topic to a lot of people. There's a lot of people who really are quick to rush to the defense of cannabinoids or cannabis and a lot of people who are critical of it. And it kind of seems like one side is much more interested in facts than the other, in terms of the kinds of comments we see on stories in our channel. And so in a moment here, I'm going to share with you guys a short video, about 3 minutes worth of some edited interview content that is part of a story that'll be one of the first stories for us to make public for the Cannabis Psychosis series. So I believe you probably, most of you probably remember we talked about this graphic last time we were live, or time before last, or maybe both even. This is the graphic that we're going to be using on the stories. This cannabis-induced psychosis graphic, and it'll be as a design element, so that it's a good recognizable thing. Oh, Anyway, sorry. I'm still here. I haven't forgotten about you guys. I'm just, I'm working my way through all of the content. We're not hearing much feedback from you guys, so please feel free to chime in. I see we have over 20 people in the room, and always good to hear from you guys to learn things about what you guys think. Viola, that's awesome to hear. So in a few minutes, we're going to be running the it's like a trailer for this one of the first stories. It may be first, it may be second. We're not sure yet. We have a couple of stories. We have a couple of stories that are well suited to be the first story. And so we're still kind of sorting out which one to do. There's actually, in the final version of this one, we have to do a little bit of editing because we spelled someone's name wrong, even though it appears to be spelled exactly the way it is on the form that they filled out before we did the interview. But that's okay. We're good. It'll be fine. And so I'm going to go ahead and play the series because I want to step away and fill up my coffee cup. And I can do that while this clip plays, because the clip is, let me find it now. The clip is 4 minutes long. And so while you guys watch this, I can go get me more coffee. And then when we come back, you guys can give me some feedback about it. So this is the first public segment ever about cannabis-induced psychosis on the Texas Pictures channel. This is the very first thing that we are sharing publicly. And so we are grateful to have you guys here and look forward to hearing your feedback afterwards.
And I lost it. And I look in a corner and there's this creature almost from like H.P. Lovecraft. It was devouring something. And I could just hear it's like a gnashing of teeth and just bones and whining and crying. And they're like, this is like, you're next. And there's like the only way to escape it is like, the way out, the exit. And I felt something heavy, like in my hand, and I realized I had a gun. I was like, what? It was like, yes, do what you've done to everybody else. And I was like, no, this isn't happening.
And he was holding our 9mm that we had up in the room. And he was pointing it right at me. And I just remember I was like, what are you doing? And he didn't say anything. He had no facial expression. His face was utterly blank. It was like no affect, just flat. And he had it pointed, full arm extended. We were probably this far away. I'm still holding the dogs as they're like fighting. And his face is blank. And he has it pointed right at my face. And I said, please don't do this. And then his arm drops and he shoots. And I couldn't hear anything. It was just that, high pitch, and I couldn't hear anything. And my dogs had stopped fighting. And then I like felt something warm, and I like looked down at my hand, and he had shot my wrist. I was holding my dogs like this, and the bullet went in through my wrist and then went out right here. And I looked at him, and his face was still blank, and blood was going everywhere on top of the blood that was already there from my dogs fighting. And I said, "You shot me." And he didn't have any reaction, and his arm just went straight back up towards my face. And it was in that moment where I said, if I don't run, I'm going to die. And so in my t-shirt and underwear, no shoes, in January, I left my dogs, and I ran right past him, and I saw my phone at the edge of the couch, and I grabbed it, and I ran out the front door. Thankfully, the door was already open from when he had ran out previously. But while I was running, I just kept hearing shots. And I could hear him running after me, like stomping after me.
Okay, folks. So, weird sound. So there we are. What did you guys think? What stood out to you? Let's see what we've got here. PCC risk and organized crime sectors, worries investors, business people, fund economics in the financial heart of Brazil. I am so excited about the upcoming. Okay. I have a lot of friends who are in their 60s and 70s that would present an argument. I feel like I know better. I am retired from the VA, and older veterans are the ones that ain't stopping. And we're not arguing. We're not arguing about anything. That people who want to use cannabis, go ahead. But be informed, be aware that it is not risk-free. Very few things are risk-free. And in the case of cannabis, cannabis is not what it was 30 years ago, 40 years ago. When I was in high school, cannabis, the potency was somewhere around 3 to 5% of the marijuana contained 3 to 5% THC. And now it's very common in dispensaries for marijuana to contain 4 or 20% THC, 5 times more. And dispensaries typically have additional products that are extra potent that go up to 30% or more. And then in vapes, it goes even higher. It can go up to over 90% THC. And so to think this is your grandparents' weed, it is not. To think that it's an all natural product, it is not. It is a plant, but it is a genetically modified plant to be more potent, to have a higher concentration of THC in it. It is modified a lot. So to call it natural, well, it's really just kind of stupid. It's obviously stupid, because anyone who uses weed knows that there is a change, that there is a dramatic increase in the potency of the drug, in the potency of the weed. And still they'll argue that it's natural. But somehow miraculously, this natural product has modified itself and changed itself to be more potent. How does that work? When in the history of the world has that ever happened? When has that been a thing? Ever. Where a natural product just up and changes itself. So, yeah. So, I want to be clear that we're not taking any kind of position in terms of whether we think people should not use marijuana or should use marijuana. That is not at all the point. The goal in the series is to increase awareness about the potential dangers. It is more common than is reported because there's no money in reporting it. And now, as it becomes a genuine business, now there's some variables at play that are going to interfere with whatever new information comes out about any dangers that are out there. Well, thank you, TX Suze. Text Susie. Text Suze. It looks like a Simpsons character. Simpsons are pretty awesome. So, where in Texas are you, Susie? Or are you in Texas? Are you just from Texas? So, the use of any substance still numbs the conscience of the user to the act of impairing themselves. Therefore, it is not a huge leap later to experiment with more potentially lethal drugs. That's true. And a lot of our storytellers have said that basic thing in fentanyl stories about their loved one, about their son or daughter or whoever, that they started with marijuana. And maybe it's not quite accurate to call it a gateway drug. I don't think there really is a gateway. But it is a flag. It is a flag. So, TX Suze, you're in the hill country. I used to live in Belton, Texas, which is kind of near the hill country. And Marble Falls used to be a popular, a favored weekend getaway kind of destination for us. So, sorry, I get messages, you know. Another thing, flag. Another thing about cannabis in use, this is going to be a problem. Cannabis-induced psychosis. Some people will say that cannabis-induced psychosis only happens in users who have pre-existing conditions. There's no evidence of that. That's when we were in Denver, we interviewed two physicians. One is an emergency room physician. Both of them have research experience on this topic. And they say there is no evidence to support the pre-existing condition theory. And more research is becoming public as marijuana becomes legal in more and more states. There's going to be more and more scrutiny toward it. There's going to be more and more research because it's legal to do the research. As it becomes legal, it becomes easier for facilities to do I'm sorry, Texas Suze. You don't think it's genetically modified to be more potent? Yeah, I do. I think the goal is to put out a superior product. It's not really any different from any other kind of business that you want to keep improving your product, because if your product doesn't improve, you become stagnant, and in business there is no maintaining. You have to either improve or fail. There is no maintaining. You have to expand, you have to modify what you're doing to accommodate the demands of your customer. And you have to grow. And if you don't grow, you die. Okay. So you missed that part. That's okay. I miss parts all the time. I did, even in interviews. It's terrible. So it's okay. The being genetically modified, and there is natural ways to get a better yield out of any plant. There's fertilizer, and there's supplemental lighting, and there's other tricks to do that. And then there's more chemically based methods that are also used. So, what did you folks think about this story that we were hearing about? This story with the stories the guy's name is Avante, and his now fiance's name is Ava, and they were wonderful, really cool people. They were wonderful to talk to, and so I thought it was great that they shared so openly. And Brianna CC 39, storyteller interviews should hover around 20 minutes in length. Yeah, I kind of lean. It is possible his pot could have been laced too. Maybe, but it came from a dispensary in Colorado. It's as legal as it can be, and dispensaries don't want to take that kind of chance. So back to the point about storytellers interviews should hover around 20 minutes in length. Now, storyteller interviews tend to be about double the length of the finished program. If a finished program is 20 minutes long, the actual raw footage of the interview is probably 35 to 40 minutes long. There is a lot of there's a lot of smoothing out the story, doing things to make it flow better, make it be more concise. Typically, to take out my voice when I ask questions, I try to ask questions in a way that the answer stands on its own without the audience needing to hear the question from me, because that's good filmmaking. I think that's good journalism. That if you structure a question that produces an answer that stands on its own, and that seems better. So, like, instead of asking someone, so did your loved one do good in school? A better question would be, how's your What was your loved one like growing up? See, that by saying what was your loved one like growing up, you're giving the storyteller a chance to just explode with whatever kind of information that stays at the forefront of their thoughts when they think of their loved one. And so it really works out good to ask in that kind of way. So and also the 20-minute thing, that is kind of in my head and in the head of the editors. The ideal length is somewhere around 20 to 22 minutes, which is also the typical length of a 30-minute long television show, is actually 22 minutes. And maybe less now, I don't know. But so we get feedback from people who say they should be shorter and people who say they should be longer. We hear from people who, if a story is 18 to 20 minutes long, we'll get comments that say, this could be longer. I really felt like there was more that I'd like to hear. And if they're 35, 40, 45 minutes long, people will say, they'll say it's too long. So it's funny. We get the same thing about music and productions, which we're pretty much doing away with. And we get the same thing about race. It's crazy. So the couple is still together. Yes, TX sues. They are. They are. They're engaged now, and they're very cool. It was really cool, positive, awesome to watch them together. While one was being interviewed, the other one was in the room hearing the whole interview but not saying a word. That the guy, what's his name, Avante, he went first. And so there was several times when I'm sitting behind the camera listening to what he has to say, and you just naturally feel like you got to look over at Ava just to check her facial expressions. Because Avante didn't hold back at all. So Viola says, but they can go as long as they like, right? Yeah, pretty much. Maybe the way to say it would be to say they can go as long as necessary. Once in a while, a storyteller will get in this zone where they just want to keep talking, and we let them. It makes more work for us later. We had an interview recently go over 85 minutes. And so we had an interview go over 85 minutes on this last trip. Another interview went over 70 minutes. And those are going to get cut a lot because 70, 80 minutes, it's not realistic to think an audience is going to sit through that. And so what happens is people see the thumbnail on YouTube and they see that the length of the program is over an hour, and they just skip it and move on to the next story, next video, next whatever. And so if the story is left in that 80-minute kind of form, it's not going to reach as many people. And that is a big goal of any of the content, is to reach a lot of people. That these are important messages, and they're messages that can save lives and help bring more awareness to important topics. And so something that gets in that range of being too long, of being more over an hour. We do have a couple of stories that are longer, but I suppose the way to describe them is they're longer, but they're hits. They've had a lot of views and drawn a lot of comments, and led to inquiries from news media and from a governor's office and a senator's office and things like that. And so we hear from sorry. And so, yeah, so we go, as far as length goes, we go back and forth. We've thought about maybe doing something like posting the raw interviews for members, giving members a chance to see the whole thing, hear both sides, hear me asking questions and hear the answers. There would still have to be a little bit of editing, because there's always going to be spots in the interviews where the storyteller will say something, or there's always a risk of there being a spot in the interview where the storyteller will say something like, "I don't want this to be included in the video, but there was this problem with law enforcement, and this problem with law enforcement, and this problem with my loved one's girlfriend, and this problem with my ex-husband." And so they'll have all of these little things that they'll want to put in for background, for understanding, to help me understand when it comes time to do the editing. And but that'll be things that we would have to go through and remove before making anything public, even for members. Anyway, so you guys have gotten quiet again. So talk to me. Gotcha. Yeah, okay. So would love a question. Holy cow. So the cannabis stuff, someone asked when is it going to be public? The first story may be Javante's story. Javante. Maybe the story that you guys saw the clip from. Or that story will be the second story. When we were in Denver, we shot probably easily over a dozen stories that are similar. One of them that will be another one of the first stories is a woman named Bryn Spetcher. Bryn Spetcher. Have you guys heard of her? She's from California. She's actually from Illinois, but from California. She ring any bells? Bryn has been on Dr. Phil. Nope. All right, well, her cannabis-induced psychosis story is really very similar to Javante's story. Javante's story involves him attacking his partner, his girlfriend. In Bryn's story, she was with a guy she was seeing, and she attacked him while in a cannabis I'm going to have a problem with this phrase. This is not good. Cannabis-induced psychosis. Well, just like that, and there it is. She was in a cannabis-induced psychosis when she attacked her friend. Stabbed him 108 times. So. And everything about her story is completely consistent with Javante's story. I can't imagine, as a mom who lost my daughter when she was 35, trying to sum up her whole life in 20 minutes. Well, there's no time limit during the interview, for sure. When we do the interview, we will try to condense what you share down to a reasonable time. And part of what makes that a reasonable time is how interesting or how boring you are, to be blunt. And part of what makes the story interesting is what kind of supporting material there is. Is there pictures or video in with the story? And so there's a lot of contributing factors that impact how long a story is. And the story is not really about summing up the victim's life. The story is really more about sharing the pathway that the victim followed in a way that helps audience members grow, helps audience members recognize when they're facing a similar path, help audience members understand what flags there are or what flags could be. And so it isn't really a tribute to the loved one lost. The stories are more about taking that loss and pulling some sort of little bit of value out of that terrible loss. That's a good answer, right? So, I'm just checking where we're at. We are over an hour. Wow. Okay. And we have 37 viewers and we have 12 likes. Come on, folks. Thumbs up. Just click that little thumbs up thing. Sharing pathways and flags. Well put. That's the educational part. Yes. You're mainly focusing on their addiction if they had any. Well, not deliberately. We don't sit down for an interview and just say, okay, when did your kid become a junkie? We don't do that. The typical question flow in all of the interviews is to start with the simple question of, so what was your loved one like growing up? And typically what happens when we ask that question is that the storyteller's face will just light up. Just they'll kind of look back and they'll smile real big, and then they'll start talking about what the loved one's qualities were. There's always some of the typical answers like, he would always light up a room. He would do anything for anybody. He'd give you the shirt off his back, things like that. But there's also always some sort of quirky, funny thing, or there's some other thing that fit well with being a personality trait, something that told a little bit like, I don't know, he would, instead of buttering his toast, he would butter his lips and then slide the toast in. Something like that. Haven't actually heard that one, but it can happen. And so we'll ask, what was your loved one like growing up? And they'll say that. And then we'll ask, how'd your loved one like school? And they'll say, well, he liked learning, but he really didn't like the learning environment. And so he was an average student, but he was really smart, or whatever they say. And then we will ask something that would be based on what they had to say, or we would ask something like, was there a spot when things started to change where it seemed like maybe drugs can be involved in your loved one's life, or any kind of behavioral change that stood out to you? And so that question only comes along if the storyteller hasn't already said, yeah, when he got to middle school, things started to change. Usually the storyteller will sort of volunteer that information. They'll start sharing things about how his friends changed and his grades started to slip and he started to get in trouble with sleeping in class or skipping class or whatever. And so then we're heading down the road to what happened. And then they want to tell. Yeah, they do. They do. It just one of the greatest things about doing these interviews is watching what happens to the storyteller as they share. I get to see. Sally, did I miss something? Uh-oh. I believe I missed something. But yes, they do want to share. It seems that society has come to think that they should feel good all the time. Yeah. Well, I think that's accurate, but I think that's a little bit oversimplifying, in that you get this sense. I hate saying that part of the blame is social media, because it's not really social media. That's cursing the hammer for bending the nail. It's not social media. It's the way people prioritize social media in their lives. It's really there's a social reward to being to what you learn in social media, and there is also a social pressure, a peer pressure, that kind of thing. Uh, I'll, uh, uh, I'll get to your addiction expert question in a moment. No, I don't. I don't consider myself an expert, but I don't consider many people experts on addiction. And I'll explain that in a minute. But that thing, that feel good all the time, that's what that's what people are inundated with all the time, as they see so much social media that is their friends and their acquaintances and their coworkers and their peers and all of that on social media, posting whatever was the best thing of their day. There's a picture of that, and so all you see is everybody's best things. And you may have a best thing or two in your day every day. I do. I think most people do. A lot of people may not recognize that they have a high point in their day. Some awesome thing happens to them every day. But to look at social media, you're seeing people having awesome things happen to them continuously. And so that can create a struggle in people's hearts and minds, I think. So, Sally, I hope that answered your question somewhat. You're welcome to ask a follow-up question. I'm not an expert on much of anything. And so back to, do you consider yourself an addiction expert? I said no a moment ago. I don't think there's any such thing as an addiction expert. There is, last year, I spent 2 days interviewing a guy. His name is Dr. Robert DuPont. He was a former White House drug czar under Nixon and Ford. That means he's old. He's old as dirt. And by being old, what that means is he's got no filter. He's got nothing at risk to keep him from just saying the truth as he sees it. Wonderful guy. He was quite captivating to hear his perspectives and all the things that he said. And he was a Cambridge professor, and he was a White House drug czar. He reported to the President of the United States. That's an expert. He researched addiction and counseled addiction recovery people for decades. He told us one story. I mean, he was with a patient. He's a psychiatrist. He was with a patient, and they were talking about addiction. And at some point, the patient said, "Doc, you just don't get it." And Dr. DuPont, he said, he kind of laughed about it, and he's thinking, "I don't get it. How can I not get it? I'm a former White House drug czar. I'm a professor at Cambridge." And he named a few other impressive credentials. And then when When he finished doing that, and so how could I not get it? And then he said, and he was right, and I was wrong. So this guy who specialized in addiction and is still doing work in addiction. There is no being an expert. It is very much a moving target. And he kind of made that clear to me. So I am far from an expert in addiction. And I have heard from people who consider themselves experts on addiction. And I've heard some people who consider themselves to be experts in addiction contradict other people who consider themselves to be experts in addiction. So if there's no consistency among the experts, I think there's a lack of experts. So, hi TPD, I just dropped here after watching number 263. I'm not sure if you already noted that the 263 description states it's about Brian Link, but is really about Amanda Peller. Yeah, gosh. Sometimes, see, I can look at that and I can look at the description and oh, come on. Maybe I can look at the description. So I can look at the description and, oh, stop it. Now, look, we're here. Look. Wow, look at that. I can give myself a thumbs up. That's interesting. Description. Jacqueline Link. Well, I wonder how that happened. What happens is when we do the upload, we typically will copy and paste the description of the previous story and then revise it. We will fix that in short order, but I'm pretty sure I can't fix it while I'm doing this. I only got so many resources here, and I don't want to divide my attention any more than it's already divided. So, Sally, did I answer your question? That's what I've learned in the course of talking with people that are in recovery and with recovery counselors and addiction specialists. The best thing that I see come out of people that are what you would count as specialists is the confidence with which they will present their idea of how a problem should be addressed. So I don't know that there really is an expert. I think the biggest benefit comes from support. Like having a sponsor. Doesn't have to be a sponsor. Doesn't have to be AA. Doesn't have to be a 12-step program. But having a sponsor or having sponsors, having people that you're accountable to when you slip up, and people you are able to share your accomplishments with when you don't slip up, that's vital. Here we are. So, well, there's always been some who turn to alcohol, etc., but it seems more recently that people believe they should not have any problems, that life should be beautiful all the time. Great work, Glenn, as always. Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate that. Sally says, that life should be beautiful all the time. Here's the catch. That life is beautiful all the time. If you believe it, that really kind of makes it so. But there's also people who aren't happy with whatever blessings they have, with whatever their circumstance is. They can't find gratitude in whatever their circumstance is. And those are the ones who feel like their life should be better. It does make it so. Yeah, it does, 100%. One of the things that stood out to me about a lot of the churches that are out there is that they really focus on negative things. That they spend a lot of time talking about how much of a sinner I am, how much of a how much struggle I have in my life, and I really have a hard time with that, because, you know, for people sitting in the audience, there's got to be people sitting there thinking, wow, I gotta get me some of this sin. I gotta get me some of this grief and guilt and pain that these other people have, because that's what everybody's supposed to have here. It's weird. But don't get me wrong. I think church can have great value in terms of it is a great place to find fellowship, and there's a lot of wonderful people in churches in general. Really, there is. So, holy cow. We talked about addiction. Now we talked about religion. So, I don't know. What we're going to talk about politics now? Just click off all of those taboo topics all at once. And so I know you're saying I lived my best life when it has not been beautiful all the time. That's what I have figured out, just my story. That's a lot of people's story. That's even people's stories who don't recognize that it's their story. That for life cannot be beautiful all the time. If life is the same all the time, that cannot be beautiful or terrible. It's just static. It's just that flat line. You have to have peaks and valleys. You have to have valleys to have peaks. You have to have those great moments, to have those experiences that make you go, wow. Experiences like maybe it's watching some member of your family graduate high school or graduate college or get out of prison or whatever. Glenn, yes, I just think we need to teach our children that they are not going to win or be the first all the time. Maybe then they won't go looking for that good high in the pill. Absolutely, Sally, yes, they can't go through life thinking they're going to win all the time, because they are not. It's not going to go that way. It can't possibly go that way. Once you get into the world and you get past the places that are run by hypersensitive parents, nobody cares if your feelings get hurt a little bit at work. Do your job, be a responsible grown-up person. So yes, that thing that everybody gets a trophy approach it's so harmful. It's clearly, obviously harmful. There's also there's an opportunity, I think, when kids are really young, in the 3 to 6, 7-year-old range. There's an opportunity. There is a way to tell them to stay away from drugs that's different. It doesn't really have anything to do with drugs. It has to do with what's legal. If you think about a drug deal, you know that the dealer is committing a crime, but so is the buyer. That's an elephant in the room that a lot of people don't talk about. Brad's here. What about that for those 3 to 6-year-olds to plant that basic seed about how important it is to respect the law? That's an opportunity that it goes by quick. A 3-year-old, a 4-year-old. There's theories out there that say that a person develops all of their core values by the time they're 6 years old. And so if one of their core values is to not commit crimes and to recognize what crimes are, that's an opportunity to stress that. Do you have any shirts available in your store? Yeah, we do. We do, Brad. And there's coffee cups, and there's hoodies and other stuff. And there will be a new store coming soon that we are working on. So how's it going, Brad? Hope things are going okay. I should tweak this a little bit. Look at there. There you go. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's Carla. Oh, it's cool to see you here, Carla. I appreciate you being here, especially, with all the excitement we've got going on and coming up, hopefully. Yeah, we have tumblers and we have coffee cups, and so do you. So. So, yeah, Sally, teaching our kids that they're not going to win all the time. Don't allow them to win all the time. It doesn't even really have to be a lesson. That losing is its own lesson. We do have these are special tumblers. There's only 20 of them in the world right now. We have coffee cups. We have coffee cups like this. I used to have 2 of them, And now I have just one, but that's okay. My friend has the other one. Losing is a lesson. There's just a little bit of coffee left in the bottom of this, and I'm about to take care of that. But yes, 100% losing is a lesson. You lose a lot more from losing. You learn a lot more from losing than from winning, for sure. You don't learn much from winning. But from losing, you learn a lot. Why? So thumbs up, everybody. I'm just going to throw that out there one more time. I look up now and then because the news is up there. Yes, very much. I enjoyed Toby Keith's restaurant. I think that's my third time to be there, actually. And yeah, I think it's just I like the kind of relaxed atmosphere. So Sally, are you new? Have you been in many? I feel like I've seen your name before, but it's been a while, or maybe the name was a little different, but similar. I don't know. Are you new? I see. We also have 35 people in the group right now. So far, we have had a total of just under 400 people view for a while, and then scroll on or whatever. And so that's cool. It's always cool to see new names in the chat. And I know that there's some people that are watching on their smart TV, and there is no way to participate in the chat through the TV, but you can log in on your phone as well and do the chat on your phone and still watch the live event on your TV. So I always throw that out there. It's kind of retarded to throw it out right now when we're about to wrap it up, but new in chat, watch on TV mostly, but got my tablet out so I can ask questions. See, exactly. Bingo. Good job. Good job, Sally. Appreciate you being here very much, and really appreciate your questions. They're good, thoughtful, constructive, generate dialogue kind of questions. That's wonderful. That's important. And Viola is always full of questions and strong, useful comments for sure. As is Carla and Brad. At least for Brad when he's had a nap. So, as far as the people that are in the group right now, is there any other questions you guys would like to present to me before it gets to be about time to wrap it up? Now, I see I see blueberry cereal. Blueberry cereal. What? So. And Cindy Bennett, appreciate you guys chiming in. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy and Sally. Thank you. So we will keep you guys posted. We announced the premieres. Here's a good question I have for you guys. That we announce the premieres when there's a new story coming out in the fentanyl series or the addiction series or anything else. When if there's going to be a premiere with the chat and everything, we will announce it in the community section of our YouTube channel. Is that how you guys find out about it mostly, or are you guys also connected with us through Facebook, or how do you guys find out when we're having a premiere? Typically, is it that announcement? Do you get a notification? It's a good question, right? I thought it was a good question. I like to know best ways to let you guys to make you guys aware when we have a new kind of story, because this cannabis, cool, Viola, thank you, pops up on YouTube. Okay. So this new Ms. Bird Lady, well, that's an interesting name. All right. Just scrolling. It's in my subscription feed, YouTube notification. And so you guys know we're also on Facebook, and you can find us there, and Instagram kind of sort of, but yeah. So but we're on Facebook, and typically we'll announce premieres on Facebook on the Texas Pictures channel and on my channel and in our private Facebook group. Where's Nux? So we heard about Nux from Brenda. It was Brenda, right? Brenda had talked to Nux. And Deidre, where's Deidre? I don't know what's going on over there. So anyway, the audio stream's current bit rate. What? Okay. So anyway. Me too, Rain's mama. She was doing so well. So from what we heard from, it was either Brenda or it was Deidre who gave us an update on Nux, that she's just very busy, but that she is hanging in there. She's just got a lot going on right now. So I'm hoping she's going to show up sometime soon. Huh. All right, folks. So we have been here an hour and 40 minutes, so it is certainly about time to wrap it up, I think. I always like to let you guys know how much I appreciate you joining us in this live chat thing and holding out for us and putting in the time and sitting through the more boring spots to get to the interesting stuff. Next time will probably be another another fentanyl story. And after that will be a cannabis-induced psychosis story. And Brad and Carla, I think you guys missed the sneak preview kind of trailer that we played earlier in this live event, but we'll certainly be showing it again. So anyway, I always like to hear the dog bark. I always like to let you guys know how easy it is to get in touch with us and how welcome you are to reach out to get in touch with me or the Texas Pictures team. That you're welcome to email or call or find us on Facebook or just put messages and comments on the stories. And if you don't hear back from us, it's because whatever your message was probably just got buried. And just send it again. It's okay. You're not a nuisance. You're welcome. It's if you don't get a reply, it's more likely it's my carelessness than anything else. Brad, we're not talking about that yet. It's a secret. All right, folks. So anyway, here is our usual closing information. You can email us at info@texas-pictures.com. You can find us on TikTok and find us on Facebook. And you can find our website, texas-pictures.com. And on our website, you can find information about our merchandise store where you can get t-shirts and cool mugs and hoodies and all kinds of great stuff. And you'll find a link that explains how to set up a storytelling summit, how to share your story, and a bunch of other interesting information. You'll also find our mailing address and you'll find our phone number. Yes, country DJ. We've talked about the description soon. Or we talked about the description being off. That's because we rely on copy and paste evidently a little too much. Anyway, that's going to be it for now, folks. So thank you very much for joining us and wish you all a very good night and hope to see you soon. Thank you.